to item 5.1.2, superintendent's mid-cycle presentation. Wanna take us
Okay,
through it
sure.
real quick?
This will be quick, because you've heard a lot of what's going on around the district, and much of that is repeated in the goals that I've outlined. So basically, in your packets, you have an outline and update on the 4 individual goals that, and team goals that I set at the beginning of the year with all of you. You've seen the progress on Mastery Connect,
Right.
which is outlined in the first part. Then you've also, you can see quickly in the second area where we are with our book study. And you've heard some mention of it throughout other presentations, as well as at the end there you started to hear perseverance and so forth, and that's some of the things we're talking about in our book study with Grit by Angela Duckworth. Moving into engaging the community and groups, you heard a little bit of how we're increasing our partnerships, and really that goal 3 never can move to that ideal level unless you are continuously engaging partnerships, because it takes a community. Moving through the 4 standards, you can see, and you have seen, some of the success that we've had on not only the state assessment data, but also what we're starting to see in STAR and in our district benchmark assessments. Management and operations, I won't go through all of this, but one of the things that certainly has been very helpful is our use of the Google applications, not only in meetings, but now with students. Just a quick tangential note, since they, our students all are using the East Long Meadow MA email, and they know I'm on that email, I get a lot more requests for snow day calls. So that's interesting. And then family and community engagement, some of that is addressed in that first series of goals, but it's really around those partnerships. And just as you said, Mr. Ficero, you look at the month of March, and our buildings are pretty consistent in terms of going well beyond the business day, if you will.
Absolutely.
That's at that point, it's been useful, at least for me, to get invitations from the principals and
Yeah,
certain
like
events in
the
the
after
space,
school,
the
sure.
math night. So I would encourage, and I
Do more.
suppose I could have done that,
Sure.
them to come to us with
Yeah.
things that they think might be valuable for us to
Good
see.
idea.
Yes, some are better than others than emailing us, so it'd be nice
Yeah.
if they could, that's a good point.
Absolutely.
You know, even though it's on a calendar.
Right.
A lot of
You can't go to
times,
all the calendar
right,
things,
but a lot of times,
highlights.
if you look at the calendar,
Right, but
without
if
an
they can,
email,
if they can highlight some of
Yeah.
the.
Yeah,
Right.
you know, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's a
helpful.
good point.
Yeah, we have a leadership team meeting on Thursday, so I
Okay.
can bring
Thank
that up. And I'd be happy to sit down and go through in detail with all or any of you who would be interested in doing that around any of the goals.
Okay,
so this is a mid-cycle report, correct?
Mid-cycle
Yes.
report.
Yes, it is.
Correct. So it's a chance to look at where we are. Are these goals still where we want to take the district by the end of the year? And does anything need to be adjusted?
One thing that was kind of neat is, I recognize most of this.
Right.
So we know we're pretty good at keeping each other up to date on a lot of things that are going on. And
Right.
so in reading this was kind of like a snapshot of things that we've talked about, issues we've discussed.
You're stealing Mrs. Blair's word, the snapshot.
I apologize.
Oh, the drawers too,
Apologize.
yes.
yeah.
Do we have to approve this or accept this?
I think this basically is to help guide you
Yeah.
You have to write
in
You gotta-
developing a formative evaluation for the mid-cycle.
Well, do you want to do it the same way we had done it last year, where we just can add to the master
Sure.
sheet and then
That's
just
fine.
send it to you?
Yeah. How does Thursday, March 9th sound? Because we meet again on the 13th. That will give me time to put it all together.
I'm confused.
Yeah, isn't this just a mid-cycle?
Yeah, that doesn't-
I don't know.
It is.
We do, we do.
We do add to
You
it.
certainly can comment, yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
thought
that's
we
Similar
right.
to
If you
what
wanna
we do.
comment, like, we'll have access to the master
Right.
So any additional comments we'll send to
Correct.
you,
Yeah,
right.
Right.
and from there, on the next meeting, we will accept it
Right.
as a mid-cycle.
Right.
Report out,
Right.
Cause you'll review it
Okay.
and you have a chance to
Yeah.
meet with Mr. Gordon, have him show you
yeah, because they're,
any
you
other
know,
evidence.
What I'll also do is, as I've done in the past, I'll put together 4 folders of evidence around the 4 standards.
yeah,
So a lot of what you're seeing here, I'll try to take, not the wheelbarrow full, as I think once
Yeah.
was referred to the amount of evidence I put in there, and just streamline it, give you some quick hitting items.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
But we don't have the
That
regular
will be in the
assessment we
Google
filled
Drive.
out before, we just give our comments.
just the comment.
Yeah,
Okay.
this way.
Because this
sounds
is only
very
mid-cycle.
repetitive.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much simpler.
Yeah, this is only mid-cycle, this isn't the end of the year.
Gotcha.
The
Right,
one we do in June, that's when
Right.
there's a
Okay.
narrative at the bottom.
correct.
But what I meant was just anybody that has anything to add, get it to me by next Thursday and I'll put it together and we'll have it on the agenda.
Okay,
How's
Yep.
that?
makes sense.
Yep.
And if there's any questions, obviously, let me know.
Perfect.
Okay. Moving along to old business, if we're all set with that. Item 6.1 is the East Long Meadow Food Service Meal Changing Policy. This is a second reading on that
Correct.
policy, so I don't know if you heard anything. I
All right.
did not. You-
Basically, this is our second reading. It's obviously a very new topic for all of us, and it's somewhat of a lengthy policy. So it was one that the school committee wanted to make sure that they went through 2 readings on. The payforit.net is not only a program that our parents and guardians can sign up for, but it does, and it will provide them snapshots of sort of where they are with that account.
Everyone's using it.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So, are we informing parents, because I don't know.
I was just
as a
gonna say
parent,
that, like-
About
right.
Payforit.net?
the option and then the PIN, the specific PIN number that we'll argue, we will all.
We, through the food services information at the beginning of the year, as well as on the website, provide this information of how they can,
How does it know?
right.
Okay.
See, we didn't read all those papers we got the first week of school.
Yeah.
No,
We
I
just
know I
signed
kept
off
some,
that
we
we
got
got 'em.
papers, because I have
So
3
we
kids, and I
certainly
think it was
can
like you
look
got
to
a separate
communicate.
number for each.
How
kid.
Yeah.
many families are using it percentage-wise?
That's a good question. I don't have that exact number.
Low or high, do we know? It might be worse.
I would
Do you
say
know?
Lori,
Yeah.
I
think
don't know
it's
a
low.
percentage, really, because I thought, I was gonna say, I think
Oh.
the way Lori
Oh,
spoke
good.
is that it's a pretty good percentage that
Good.
utilizes it.
So
We
maybe
can
that's
get
the
that.
assessment, is to see if there's a high percentage, and then
Right.
maybe there's not a need for
Sure.
some education
Greater
otherwise, or maybe
communication.
we could.
No, but part of this whole
We have to
policy
approve.
was that, to make sure that we are sending proper documentation home
Right.
to.
Right.
Okay, so part of
Just
that.
the way to do it, I know we keep talking about emails and such, and we haven't gotten there yet, but, I don't know.
And
I just thought,
do
you know.
recall, and I think if you did an online payment, I think there was like a fee.
There is.
There still is,
There
okay,
is,
I wasn't
yeah.
sure if it was just like a beginning of the year, like a beginning of the, you know.
Now, there's a charge.
There is a
every time.
There is a
charge.
charge.
There is a
Similar
percentage?
to when
Yes.
you.
No, it's a flat.
It's a service
transaction,
charge.
Yeah.
Similar to how our bus online, it is a
Yeah.
turnoff unfortunately, but,
I still send in my money.
yeah,
Everybody, this is the way,
Which is fine,
Yeah.
perfectly fine.
absolutely. We do either
We're
way.
dinosaurs, Deirdre.
I know.
Do we need to publicize this in any way?
Well, that's what Greg was just asking.
Well,
the policy,
The-
once we approve it,
We'll go into our policy
Well-
manual, and certainly, I think, the food services section of our district webpage will put it
Yeah.
on there as well.
yeah.
And how does the town receive payments, online payments? Through the website?
I'm
We
not
have
sure,
those
because I
available?
still go to
To that
town hall.
company.
Yeah, so do I, I'm just wondering if,
They've
because
got,
of the fee portion of it, if we have the capacity towns.
Well, I
I'm
think-
tempted to say the
Unipay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because when we set it up for transportation, my understanding was we got that information from the town
Okay.
side. So I would think
So if they're
that they,
providing a service charge for our families, I think they're probably doing service
Okay.
charge for
exactly,
them
it'd
as
be
well.
the
Fair
same.
enough.
because I, like I said, I go into town hall, pay
Yeah.
everything, and it's just have it.
Right,
But I do see that option online, but I've never even checked it out.
yeah, right, okay.
Okay, is there anything else on this policy?
And I make a motion to approve the East Long Meadow Food Service Meal Charging Policy, EFDA.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
6.2, update on the development of the FY 2018 operation budget.
Okay, in your packets you have a series of 3 sheets that are beginning to structure what our FY 2018 budget could look like. The spreadsheet is somewhat of a derivation, I guess, might be the best way to say it, of what the town used over the last few years. I think at your places is the newest town template that we'll have to eventually put all our budget information into. That template came out late in the afternoon last Thursday. All departments have to get that back to the town, bless you, the town accountant's office by Monday afternoon, March 6th. Whoa. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, and then Mrs. Blair will walk us through the different scenarios in the spreadsheets. Right now, based on the town council's meeting, it was a week ago? Am I
Yes.
correct on that? Or possibly 2 weeks
2
ago?
weeks ago,
2 weeks
yeah.
2 weeks ago. They're looking to stay within the range of a 1% increase to the overall town budget. So what that basically means is with a budget of $55,184,827, you're looking at possibly an increase of new money around $551,000 and change, sort of new money. Also in that meeting, I think there was a revenue projection that possibly the town may be receiving revenue through the different means that it receives, taxes and so forth, closer to somewhere around 58 million. So we're in a pretty good, healthy fiscal situation town-wide, but I think at the moment, there's a cautious, sort of conservative approach as we really delve into the budget development
Well,
season.
And so, to that point, right, and I know it's not part of our discussion to have, or when it is or not, my opinion, because I watched the meeting, I felt that that was somewhat of an arbitrary percentage point to arrive at, and will have some great effect on our budget and our ability to function as a school system. And I'm not sure that the council is aware of that. And so, I know we were supposed to have a meeting with them tomorrow. They're still having a meeting. Included in that meeting is a discussion on budget, but they've uninvited the school committee.
No,
Well, they didn't-
but that, yeah,
They really didn't uninvite.
Well, we were invited, and then they said, don't come.
No, we said we were, it was a mutual
Oh.
decision
right,
that we
Okay.
weren't really
I
ready.
misunderstood that then.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was,
No,
it's,
No, we weren't uninvited.
Okay, okay.
Because we all kind of talked, and it was probably better that Gordon and Pam meet with Denise and Sarah to start the conversation
Okay.
before we go back to the council.
I mean, it could also be that many of the members of the town council might think 1%'s lovely. They might not have any idea.
Well, they don't.
Right, of the
I
effect.
just
You know,
feel- I
I'm
don't-
not saying that to be
I
mean,
can
they may
appreciate
not
the
have
need
any.
to be fiscally responsible
Yeah.
and to minimize any increase in taxes. I appreciate that. I think it was an arbitrary discussion from my perspective,
Right.
and this is all new for all of us. The process is new. And so it would be like asking town meeting what percentage they want us to follow. Well, what are they
Like the
gonna
lowest
say,
one,
right?
Right.
And so, I don't know if the train's gonna leave the station before we're able to make the case for what we think
sure.
as an executive body, right? Not the legislative side, which they are, we're the executive body of the school side. The impacts of a 1% increase and how it's,
And so that's really what tonight's
Okay.
discussion is about.
Okay.
To follow up on what Mr. Fonseca was saying, we, after that meeting, did have a couple different conversations with the town manager and the town accountant, and we'd like to get guidance tonight from all of you to help structure how we present our budget and how we begin to discuss it with the town manager and the town accountant, and then ultimately schedule that meeting where the school committee and the town council are meeting around this with a little bit more of a structured atmosphere.
And Denise did want to encourage any, communication between, if the school committee had questions or concerns, certainly she encouraged the questions in a meeting to happen between town council and school committee.
Should the meeting though be with Denise though and not with town council,
Well, the
executive
process,
to executive?
the process is Denise ultimately presents a budget
It's fine,
to the council
right, I understand that.
based on all the, her meeting with Gordon, Pam, and all the other department heads.
Right,
Formulates a budget. All the council did was establish an arbitrary or unarbitrary, well, we're gonna hold everybody to 1%.
right, but we're different than every other department within the town. We are the only elected executive board in the town remaining, right?
Right.
So we have the school side, town manager is the executive for the town side. So I don't know that Denise can fully understand our perspective as elected officials representing the children of this community, the townspeople of this community, and what we feel we need. We've all been around for a couple of years now, and so I think we would only be of assistance in her ability to develop a budget to present to the council.
Well, that is the purpose of tonight, is to give Gordon and Pam guidance as they begin the meetings with Denise and Sarah, prior to
And
us
then-
meeting with the
But then
council.
also to schedule the committee
Right.
with the town council as well.
With town council or with the town
Would it be
manager?
prudent to meet her here?
Town
Like, have-
council.
invite her to one of our meetings?
You're right, executive to
So-
executive, so.
Maybe.
Right,
Right.
it's a collaboration of the executive function, and then that collaboration goes to the council. I know and I understand that the charter says that the town manager is the one to present the
Right.
budget. So in the end, it will be what it will be, and I get that. But without our ability to present our case before the train leaves the station and everybody's at 1% and deal with it, which in fact, town won't be at 1% because they're adding new positions that are required within the charter, so they'll be at 4, 5, 6%
Right.
potentially. So I'm just worried now that this 1% number is out there. If we could do it, great, right? But the other side of it is, and the other discussion we need to have, which we start having and it keeps getting cut off, is the ability to fund some of our capital investments within the levy capacity. And I don't know that everybody's actually looking at that, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but for me, it would make sense to look at the levy capacity to fund some of our capital projects. We've requested 20 million this year, right? And so if we have levy capacity, which I believe is $2.4 million, wouldn't it make sense to use that capacity instead of borrowing money and paying interest to a financial institution? For me, that just makes sense, Pam. I don't know if we could run some numbers, but if you pay interest on something, it costs you more, right? So
Well-
if we could go, so these are the discussions that I think the town council, they're doing a lot of work, they're doing a lot of hard work, they have a lot of things on their plate. Denise is doing a lot, the town manager is doing a lot of work. She's got a lot on her plate, I know she has a ton on her plate. What I don't want is for our budget to just kind of get shuffled in with everybody else's, and then all of a sudden, well, it's 1%, make it work, which they've said.
I really don't see that happening.
Okay,
Because the other thing is, on or before April 1st, we get a copy of the preliminary budget that's presented to the town council that includes our budget. It's not finalized, it's a preliminary report that Denise has to file with the council and us. So and it's not,
but the only thing we're gonna see is a bottom line number, right? Because it's the,
well, we'll see what our budget is in that budget.
right, the bottom line, our school department budget bottom line, and will be, that will show up from the budget that Denise presents to the town council will only include this bottom line number, whatever that
Yes.
number ends up being,
Right.
right? And so,
Or whatever we
I mean,
direct.
you may get something like this back from,
Yeah.
you know.
but town council's not gonna get this, town council will get this one number, and if they just say, stick to that 1%, right? Then it's completely up to us on how we get there, right? And so, without those discussions before then,
Well, I think there will be discussions before then, that's my point,
with whom?
with the council.
But it's not up to the council, that's the point. See, it's up to the executive to develop the budget collectively.
Right, but it's up to the council is the ultimate,
The council should not even be deciding on it until they receive a budget.
What they will, like I said, they're gonna be receiving a preliminary copy of the budget
Right.
by April 1st.
Are we gonna have input on that budget
Yes.
before they receive it?
Yes.
The school committee?
That is why we are having this discussion tonight, so that Gordon and Pam can start the discussion with Denise and Sarah.
Okay.
I
What
would
we can
like-
also do, though, within those discussions, I'm sorry, I didn't
No,
mean to cut you off.
no, I was just quick want to say, I would like to invite her to one of our meetings, and we can discuss with her
And
how we feel.
Sarah as well, I think,
Right.
too.
Maybe with, yes,
It-
and
because-
because it's important for us, for her to see the concerns that you're
Right.
saying, we all feel. I don't know if that's,
And perspectives are different. Perspectives of Gordon and Pam are different
No,
than
I
perspectives
understand
of
that, and I
us as
respect
an
it.
executive council. They have the best intentions of the district in mind. I
Right.
guarantee that, and I know
But
that for a
all I'm
fact.
doing,
But their case is different than our case that
but
we made.
all I'm doing is following what the charter says.
Right,
And that's
but
what we have to do
Are we
right now.
prohibited from discussing with the other side of the executive branch the operating budget for next fiscal year? Are we prohibited from doing that?
We're
in
not
the charter?
prohibited, but it doesn't state, it doesn't address it in the charter. What it addresses in the charter is the superintendent shall present his budget to the town manager. That's the way the charter
Okay.
reads.
It's certainly
Okay.
something that we can
But we can-
discuss.
yes.
You know, because we have to, after we have this discussion here and go through some of these different scenarios, we have to set a meeting with the town manager and the town accountant to start to structure that. In those meetings, I can offer an invitation if that's what the committee
Yeah.
would like to do, to invite town manager and town accountant to one of our meetings, or maybe we schedule a special meeting just around
Right.
that.
But just be aware that it's not, the charter doesn't require that. We can do it.
I know, but I think this is a unique situation that it's all new to everybody. And what I
Right.
don't want to
Right.
happen is that the town council falls into the same pattern that the board of selectmen was doing in terms of, and they said it, here's your marching orders, go
Right.
make it happen.
Right.
That's not their job, that's not what town
No, no, no.
meeting did,
No.
but that's what they're doing.
Right, no, I understand that.
So
No, I
we
do
have to be
understand that.
vocal as the other elected board in town. We're the only other one. And if we're not vocal as experienced elected officials, then it's gonna go back, we might as well have had a 5-member board of selectmen, but we don't even have the checks of the town meeting anymore, right? So if you take away, it could get very bad quickly, and I'm not saying people have bad intentions,
Right.
but if people aren't seeing the whole picture and what they're really supposed to be doing, then the checks are no longer there, right? And then we're not heard, and then we're just have to face with a 1% budget, not because times are tough, but because it's an arbitrary 1% that they just, well, they want to be fiscally responsible. We all do, right? But without pleading our case to anybody, because they're not watching tonight, maybe they are, I don't know if they are or not, then it falls on deaf ears, is my point. So it's a new system. I just
To
want,
establish the
we should be
future.
involved in it as much as they're willing to
Right.
let us be involved. Let's put it that way.
But all,
the kickback is gonna come to us. I mean, if, say, for
Right.
instance, this 1% goes through, and we are cutting teachers
Cutting.
out of our
well, we
school
need,
system, the first thing that's gonna happen is, it is gonna get blasted all over newsprint, and the little tiny bit of gain that our town has made in real estate will be lost, and it's gonna be more than 1%.
It's unnecessary. It's an
Ridiculous.
unnecessary cut.
Yes.
You know, if the money wasn't there, that's one thing. But to
Right.
come up with a percentage to say, okay, now cut out $500,000 of your budget, why are we doing that? Are we trying to better education in the town, or are we trying to just
unfortunately.
say we're fiscally responsible?
Unfortunately, if you watch the meeting, it was a recommendation. And that's what the bad part was. It was a
Yeah, but
recommendation.
within that recommendation, several members of the council specifically talk like Board of Selectmen members. We're gonna give you your marching orders, and you have to fall
Right.
within that. That's not how the system was developed. The
No.
system was that the executive creates the budget and presents it to the council. They can talk as much as they want. I think that's good, that they're having open dialogue about where they're at, right? But if they don't understand holistically, and they just wanna be, fiscally responsible and come up with an arbitrary number, it's gonna hurt the school system.
No, I
And-
agree.
And they also
I agree.
have to understand that level services is a step back.
Right,
It's
Right.
not a step forward, it's just there, but it really is there and back some.
right.
Because we're still taking away to make up for
Right.
just contractual.
Contractual.
Well,
obligations.
the 1% is
That's
a
just
drastic cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not level at all.
Right.
So that's my point. My frustration is that I thought we were gonna go tomorrow, have this sort of discussion. In the end, they're gonna decide, right? We have nothing we can't approve, just like town meeting has to approve it. We can plead our case. If we don't get to ever plead our case, it's frustrating to me
Right.
as a committee member, and
We will,
it'll be lost.
we will have the opportunity because it wasn't canceled, it was just postponed.
Okay, I didn't understand that. I
Until-
thought they uninvited
No,
us.
no, because this was a, we have to talk to Denise and Sarah before we talk to the council. That's the way we felt it was the right way. With this 1% just coming out.
That makes sense.
And the template wasn't even out until late Thursday afternoon, so nobody knew what was going on. It wasn't until, what, Friday?
Yeah,
that
I opened it this
finally-
morning because I didn't work on Friday.
Right, but it
so-
wasn't until like, what, Friday when we found out that we weren't meeting with or was it late Thursday?
late Thursday.
Late Thursday,
It was
when
late
I sent the
Thursday.
text.
But that was
So-
based on discussions that I
Right,
Okay,
had.
and I
with-
misunderstood.
I had.
That's
with
okay.
Denise.
Well, come on, see, I crystallize what's going on. The first step is that I think, I want to second Mr. Thompson, we need to get in front of the people we have to get in front of for sure.
Right.
That is a definite, excellent analogy with the train leaving the station without us having a chance to say something. And so what's in front of us are two different scenarios, correct?
That's
Yes.
correct.
I mean, the first one with the yellow, I don't think we should look at or discuss at 1%. I think the next two are very viable.
Well,
So you have to fill this out without recommendation.
Yeah,
Well,
yes.
it's eventually, that's gonna be due
In a
next
week.
Monday.
Next Monday.
Next Monday. So
Uh,
what Gordon and I wanted to let you know is just up at if we could just start with the yellow one. I'll try to go quickly, I know it's late and everyone's tired. But our current budget, just to remind you, is 28,557,076. So I wanted you to be aware of what is 1%, 2%, 3%. For everyone out there listening, 1% is only $285,571, which is not a lot of money with a $28 million budget, and certainly not when you have contractual obligations. This yellow one here shows only contractual obligations. We consider this a level service budget. There's none of the requests on here that our principals have brought forward or administration. So what this shows is that the bottom line here, we need $564,962. It doesn't even get to
Level
the.
services.
For level
Which is a
services.
So it's like
2%
half,
increase.
yeah.
That's correct.
If we are held,
Which is,
if we are held to a 1%, it will result in a cut of $279,000.
Right.
And we haven't even talked about the paras who
And we-
are underpaid and gonna be hitting they're not gonna be making minimum wage.
they are part of our.
At the rate we're
They're
going.
part of this.
They are part in the
Yeah.
base pay here, we had to
Yeah.
Still.
put
So-
something in there.
So we
But
do
what, and what I did at the bottom here is just to show you, when I wrote the deficit amount at a 1% increase, is that if we need 564, but we can only get 285, then
That's
we're
a
down
difference.
to
Well, that's what I just
79.
said, that's what I just said. So it needs to be known that a 1% results in a $280,000 cut.
So,
in
you know,
education
4 to
for
5
this town.
teachers.
Right.
Right.
We haven't even figured it out.
Right.
If you just.
I mean,
yeah.
just to throw that
Right,
out
just
there.
for a,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
argument's
the
sake,
reality.
argument's
Yes.
4.5.
largest
Right.
part of our budget is the
Right.
personnel.
But I have to tell you, in discussions that I've had with both Denise and Sarah, I do feel that it's discussions that the town council had with, and they're trying to be extremely conservative. I feel like there's a little bit of gray area
I
there
just
that
don't
we
think they
need to bring
understand
the
it.
picture forward.
Right.
Because I don't think I understand it, and I watched the meeting, as you
Yeah.
said, and I think the consultation that they're getting is fiscally conservative, right? And I get that,
And
right?
fiscally
But how
responsible.
many times, Bill, have we gone to the levy over as long as you've been involved with this town?
We haven't. We very seldom have,
No, I mean the levy of the town, how often do
Oh.
we tax the levy?
not that often.
Once
No,
in
we-
my 6 years.
Yeah,
Only once?
yeah, it hasn't been that often.
But the point is, though.
I know what you're saying, yeah.
But the point is, though, to leave so much out there when we need so much, I just don't understand,
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
they've already said that they're not gonna tax to the levy again,
and that's fine.
but I
But
don't.
the 1%,
Right. I
Well,
think the argument around what the 1% does to how we educate our students in town.
right,
If we focus on that, I think
Yeah.
they'll be more receptive.
and we need to make that argument to Denise.
Right.
And
As well as the
Sarah,
town
as much
council.
as she's involved, right? before it gets to the council, right? Because it shouldn't go, it shouldn't be a discussion with the council.
Correct, which is
Right.
what,
That's,
what
that's
this
Right.
what
And I,
this is all about.
and so that's why we're not
Yes.
doing tomorrow.
Right,
Right,
That makes a lot of sense, right? As long as we're having those discussions with the people with whom we're supposed to be discussing before it's already decided.
Which is why we made up these 3 different
Okay.
scenarios, so we could get feedback from the
Okay.
school committee, so you
Right.
can give us a directive on, to go forward. So the blue one, scenario number 2, this added in a .3 speech language pathology assistant, correct, Gordon?
correct.
And $50,000 curriculum renewal increase that has been a lot of talk these days.
well, going back to tonight's presentation,
Exactly.
okay? The need for
The science.
the science because of their consumables, that was brought to our
Right.
attention tonight.
The
So
owl
these-
pellets, they need more owl pellets.
Well, that too.
Well, that, in addition to the fact that as we continue to align to new
No,
standards,
I get it.
yeah, I know, I know
Yeah.
you get it.
I just,
But I think it's worth,
No, it was.
whatever
we
viewing
need that.
audience we have, they understand as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
no.
No,
And
I mean,
at the high
curriculum,
school.
So this
Still,
is
the
not including
hands-on
grade
stuff
three,
is
grade
gonna
3
be-
teacher.
This, so
No,
if we
this
go
is
to the
new.
last,
That's right,
the
yeah.
last
The
one,
blue is the
the
last
green one is the
Reinstate
last
the
one.
grade 3 teacher.
This shows that we added in the, we do have, retirement incentives that are higher this year, so there was a $52,000 increase there. The increase of the .3 speech language, and the new 3rd grade teacher that was requested, and again, the curriculum. These were the only needs,
And
the
actually,
needs that were brought forward, that we wanted to bring forward in FY18 budget, and that would be $686,625, which is a 2.4 increase.
So all the other priorities of the leadership team,
Thank
we
you.
hope that we can do that within our existing budget.
That's correct.
So social
We'll work on all
emotional
of
piece,
those.
Yeah.
the technology,
Right.
the science equipment at the high school, et cetera.
Science equipment at the high school would have to be phased in over time.
Right.
I understand, but I'm just saying that
Would be
that
under,
this
yeah.
2.4 could possibly meet all the meet most of the priorities as put forth by the leadership team.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
So I don't think there's anything else to discuss but this one here. That's, I hate to cut right to the
well,
chase, is that the
I
expression?
feel in the last couple of years, every percentage increase has gone lower and lower.
Yeah.
In like the last, 4, I think, budget years. We had like a 4% and then like.
We've,
It's at 2% almost of the time, haven't we?
No, I know we've had like
we've gone, the fiscal year 13 was 2.9%, fiscal
Okay.
year 14 was
we
4.1%.
did have a 4.
Yeah, fiscal year 15 was 1%. Last year was right at around 2%, although we requested 2.1, eventually when it was all said and done. And this year, they're looking possibly at a 1%, which is why we're having the discussion to see what guidelines the school committee would like to have as we start those conversations.
but I think they need to see, everybody needs to see what 1% is and does, and then start the discussion there. You can't start at 2,
What do you mean?
well, no, because you said, well, this
See,
is
they
the
don't
only one.
understand the history
No,
of,
they
I think,
don't-
our past
they don't
percentage
understand.
increases,
Right.
and a
Right.
1% is
Right, you need to,
cutting.
yeah, you
Will be
need,
cuts.
you need, I don't have a problem ending here, but you have to start here with the 1%.
Why do you have to start here?
Because you have to
because
show.
no.
Back to Mr. Thompson's point, that's
This
what our
is
job is when we
nonsense.
sit
Right,
down to
that's
explain
Right,
it.
but you just
I
have
don't-
to show, you have to show what the 1% is.
Yeah, right, we all understand what the 1% is.
But they have to.
Our budget that we're requesting should be
Should
this.
be
This is
green.
where it ends.
Yes.
But it has to
Okay, so
start
how
with
many
this.
teachers is 1% cut? I know it's not
4 to
really.
5.
It could be
4
like
to
5
5.
teachers,
But-
yeah,
but-
or
but-
numerous
Don't do
programs
that.
if you
But
can.
it's
Well,
not
programs,
even-
yes, you have to say,
It's the
we try to keep the
programs,
teachers in
yeah.
the classroom,
Right.
so it's gonna affect the maintenance,
Yeah, it's
athletic
everything.
programs, extracurricular activities,
Yep.
transportation.
That,
Right.
that
It's not-
calendar you were looking at,
Yeah,
Those things
what is
cost
gonna
money
happen
and
is,
time.
that you're gonna be charging our poor parents a higher user fee in
Yep.
athletics,
Yep.
a higher fee in transportation.
Yep.
yep.
So that the town council can keep fiscally responsible. Fiscally responsible, I sat there next to Ms. Menard, who said at least twice or 3 times that this town is in financially good shape.
Yeah.
Am I
Heard that
correct?
several
Yeah.
times.
Did I hear
Well,
that?
no,
Yep.
we keep hearing that. They said it
Well,
at the last council meeting.
There's
at
fiscally
$685,000,
responsible
right? The capacity is for $2.4 million. Even if you were half the budget, and
Yeah.
you double that number, you're at 12.
Yeah.
We're only realizing half of the levy capacity.
Right.
That's it.
Oh, it's, the potential is there for
Right,
every.
because we're healthy.
Yes, we are.
So why make the schools sick if the town is healthy?
Well, that's, and again, and we keep hearing about new growth and the real estate market starting to
Yep.
take off again here in town.
I do
This
have
will.
just a couple of things
Go
that I
ahead.
would like to, I knew that this was gonna be a difficult, we knew that this was gonna be a difficult conversation.
No difficulty.
Yeah.
Well,
Plain and simple for us, right?
Yeah, it's real
well,
simple
but,
for us.
but what I guess what I'm concerned with is that a lot's gotta happen in a very short time.
Yes.
Right.
period.
Right,
And
and we
they're
don't wanna
asking
lose
for this
out.
budget in a week, we're gonna have meetings really quickly, they've gotta have it to the town council by the April 1st. I just wanted to throw out a few things to you because we have, put our heads together and again, looking for directives from you, okay? First of all, I do wanna fess up that I found an error on a spreadsheet today that I made, $4,328 that I can reduce the base salary because it's, next year is 260 days, work days for hourly, like custodial, secretary, and it makes a difference, I had 261. So right off the bat, I can reduce that down. This happened, I discovered it obviously today after
We
you
just
guys
got
had.
4,000.
So that was
Why do we have 1 day less?
great.
Why is there 1 day less? Just explain.
It's not, it's just the way the calendar,
There's the
it's
calendar.
260.
So-
Oh, because they're year round employees, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's
Gotcha.
just the way that we,
Yep.
yeah,
This year actually was 261.
it was,
Yeah.
yes.
Next year's gonna be 260.
Yep.
The next thing is, I just would like to say that we could revise the budget for the retiree vacancy positions. We currently put a placeholder in there, monetary placeholder of a master's 8, and that is like a 62,662 figure. We could reduce that to a master's 5, which would still be a $56,492 figure, and that would save us about $57,000.
What it does,
It's
it's,
just a-
it's somewhat of a risk,
Right.
in that it is a placeholder.
You wanna
The
hire-
savings we're saying that will be there is both between, say, where the outgoing person is and where we hire. However, your pool of applicants may not all be
Right.
under that placeholder.
Right.
And so if you, in the
Reduce
end, do
it.
not hire
Right.
at that placeholder or below, you're actually in the red.
Right.
So then
It's
we'd
a
be in the
gamble.
air. So it's a gamble, but it is something that you could change. The last few years, we've stayed at Masters 8, which gives some room in terms of looking at experienced candidates as well as less experienced candidates. This would just condense that a little bit and say, let's make sure that you're looking at all levels of experience in your interview
What have we
process.
done in the past?
Masters 8.
Now, let's not start to have a
Right.
negotiation among
Right.
ourselves
No.
before we've gone to
Yep.
the town council.
No.
I think we need $686,625. That would be my recommendation, because as, to quote Mr. Master, the former chair of the Appropriations Committee, it's up to us how we spend the money.
Right.
We just gotta kind of somehow come in accordance with their goals and our goals to be fiscally responsible. Our goal right now is, I think, is we need $686,625 increase. That's what I'm saying.
The other aggressive maneuver, which is fine in terms of keeping the placeholder, the other aggressive maneuver, which I think will come up in the discussions, is that you go faster, or we go faster on utilizing the kindergarten revolving account.
That was my next line.
We have gradually moved where we're recognizing or letting that carry somewhere between, say, 40,000 and 50,000 in terms of personnel and supplies for kindergarten. You could, and it may be asked of us, before you say that you need X for level services, why don't you use all of that next year?
What's the
Or,
balance?
the amount in there is,
Oh, I hope I have this sheet. Okay, so at the end of this year, 630, it would be 190,000.
So,
the risk there, though, is if you use all of it, then next year at this time,
Yeah.
we're trying to make up
Nothing there.
190,
Right,
which is
exactly.
why we,
With
With whatever
Right.
percentage
right,
increase.
why we've kept it gradual.
I
You
think
know,
we had a plan, we should
absorbing
stick with that plan.
40,000 or 50,000 is a lot different than absorbing
Yeah.
190,000.
Exactly.
right.
Stick with the plan.
Stick with
It's
the
gonna
plan.
work.
And it's one of the few places that we can, go
Right.
to,
You-
just to have.
I think that will be in
Right.
the discussion,
But it-
because
we
obviously
do.
the town's very aware of revolving accounts.
Right.
Well, plus that money
But
can
to
only
that point, we need to explain that will create a hole, right? I think you need
Absolutely.
to understand
Which
that.
I've done each
Right.
year.
Right, because then next year, you would have to
You're still in the
acknowledge that
same-
$190,000 deficit right off the bat.
And we've
Right.
acknowledged, and that revolving account has been discussed with the budget process all this
Right.
time,
Right.
and that was the course of
That was the
action
plan.
everybody
We've
agreed
we've
on.
never
Wean off
referred to the
years ago.
kindergarten revolving account without elaborating that this has been the plan, so
Right.
that it's
Right,
not
yeah.
a huge
Shouldn't be
hit
a surprise.
to the operation.
Right, because even in 4 years, we'll have a $40,000 deficit right off the bat because it'll no longer exist, right?
Right.
We'll have exhausted, but that's
Yeah.
4 years from now and it's
Yeah.
$40,000,
But it's-
as opposed to next year,
$190,000.
$190,000.
Yeah.
Plus
Right off
whatever.
the bat, which is.
Right,
When you're talking, if you look at the percentages for this year,
Yeah.
at 685, throw another 190 on there.
Right.
And
It's
you're,
huge amount of
you're,
money.
it's real mad money.
we just felt we needed to make sure you're aware of
It's half a
all,
percent-
Well, no,
it's half a
all
percent.
aggressive
Right.
maneuvers that you can do.
And
But
was
that-
very
we're not
nice of
there.
you.
And the last one I just wanna say is that we can pay 2 retiree incentive payments out of the FY17 budget, which we discussed.
We do have
about.
that option.
Yeah,
Okay.
So
Once
you-
again, let's not negotiate among ourselves, please.
yeah.
That's
Well,
the-
these are just
these that we
scenarios.
have-
These are just
options.
scenarios.
and
No,
those-
but you're saying these scenarios, and I mean, now we go in front of town council, and they say, wait a minute, you've got this, you can do this. I mean, it's our budget.
right,
It's our
right.
budget discussed once
Right.
we get there.
Yeah,
And let's fight for the budget we need
we're
first.
gonna fight for the
And
budget
then
that
if,
we
then if
need.
we have to do some adjusting, I think Ms. Blair's shown some good
What's-
ideas.
How much is that incentive, the retirement incentive,
37,666.
for each?
No, just
That's
the-
both,
just all
that's
of
2, yeah.
That was the waiver situation, where we put the condition that if it could be paid this year, we would look at that.
But we have it in next year's. In
Right
this-
now,
That's
it's in,
correct.
it's in the
Right.
final
Yes,
budget.
it is. That
See that?
52,000 increase includes that.
I'd be willing to talk about that one.
Yeah.
But,
Because
Not
that's,
right
that's a unique situation, it's not always unique, it happens every year actually, but I think there have been years we paid it in the prior year,
Right,
and there have
right,
been years
I
we
know.
paid it in the
Yeah.
going forward. It's good to be able to have that flexibility.
Right,
Right.
and that's where we're at,
Right.
that's what
Yeah.
these are just possible scenarios. I agree with Rich, we're not gonna start bargaining amongst
Yeah,
ourselves
no, right.
here.
I guess the question would be
Or
then, and
negotiate.
the one question I have is, should Gordon and Pam speak with the town manager prior to visiting with us? Because I think she really needs to visit with us.
Well, there's,
Or
That's fine, yeah,
before.
I don't
They
mean
really
to.
should, no,
I think she's expecting that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not trying
she
to
is.
cut legs off or anything, I'm
Yeah,
just,
no, that's fine.
now, there's nothing.
I think we like to be heard, and we have to be
Yeah.
able to talk to somebody,
Right.
and we can no longer talk to town meeting.
Right.
Well, we used to talk several times through appropriations.
Right.
Right.
And that's the
And
difference
collectively,
is,
we
And we
come
had
up with a plan.
guidelines, right, exactly.
you know, we'd get guidelines in December.
Right.
And we'd start meeting in late January and February. And we'd have all these discussions.
Right.
Now, it's a whole different process.
It is.
Right.
And it's, you
That we're
know,
all getting used to,
And we're
and
all-
I know town council has the best interests of this town. I'm not trying
Yeah.
to say that, I just don't know that they fully understand, and how can they fully understand?
well, they can't
what-
understand.
I know, it's
No.
like, it's a weird process.
Unless they see something like this,
Yeah.
which they haven't seen, what 1% looks like.
Right, but
But they don't know what,
But we'll bring
what
forward
this
the
even
grade.
does to our school
This is-
system
Right.
when they're looking at it.
But,
They just,
and
oh,
that's
it's
what
an
they,
increase.
that's what we're gonna get that message.
it's a slippery slope, I know as we started getting into discussions.
It is.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we
Well,
hear
we
your
have our,
message.
we
Okay.
have our meeting, we took the lead in that meeting, we thought we were gonna get some guidelines from them, and that'll be in
No, I-
February.
yeah.
We ended up taking the lead, explaining
But
everything.
because that meeting, I don't think was properly, I don't think it, that's not the way it was supposed to be, let's put it that way. We were supposed to get some information and all because they didn't have a full council, for the last 2 meetings, they haven't had
No, I
a
know,
full
I
council.
saw that.
And that makes a difference. So, you know, if all the players aren't in the room, they didn't, you know, it was, and we did take the lead, but I don't think that's the way it was supposed to be.
Okay, so what are we doing tonight from Ms. Blair and Mr. Smith?
Well, I feel like I've gotten the directive.
Yeah, we don't have to really take any votes.
It doesn't need to be a vote, we
No.
just need
Right.
guidelines
So-
as to what you would like us to present in our discussion with the town manager and the town accountant. So basically, it's guidelines on, which sounds like the guidelines are that you want the green budget presented. And the second element that you want to make sure that we do is, as we're discussing the budget, we also establish and schedule a meeting where we invite
So communication.
town manager and town accountant, either to a meeting that is not one of our regular meetings and is just around budget, and we add a date, or to one of our scheduled dates.
Okay,
That's good.
I would,
And that would go before any meeting between town
Correct.
council and the school committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about this baby?
What's that?
Oh, I was just letting you know that that was
That's
the
just-
template.
yeah, that's
Oh, you're
just
talking
template.
about for
Yeah,
your,
do you already have the figures that we discussed?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
just wanna make sure.
yeah, I just wanted you to know what I just opened
No.
up today and what I'll be working on for the next week to get it into their
Gotcha.
format, okay? Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
just one thing that you do need to know is that in their format,
Yeah,
remember, the rules are different. So the top part will be your contractual obligation or your
Right.
level services. And then the additional part will be your supplemental, which would be our requests.
And you're gonna express to them what would happen
That
to our
goes-
schools at 1% or 2%?
Yes.
Like, this is what we have to do, these are programs that are lost, or, okay.
And we're gonna invite them to the meeting.
And that even at the green one, its level is not a step up. It's still a step back.
Right.
yeah.
It's better
It
than.
is.
Yeah, we were still
Five
lost
steps
all those
back.
positions a couple of years ago, only
Right.
still, only filling one back up, you know?
Right.
So are you confident then that the town manager has the ability to recommend a budget other than 1% to the town council?
I'm confident that we can have the conversations around that.
Right.
Without having those, I don't know
Right.
where their thinking's at, other than watching the meeting the other
That's a
night.
good question.
Right, and so because I can't say that I know how she's feeling in this
Mhm.
process, and
Right.
I heard her say she wants to be in discussion with the council often about it to keep them apprised, which is good.
Right.
I just don't know that she has the ground to stand on yet, being just named the town manager, to fully express what we're trying to express here today
Mhm.
to get it done. Maybe she does, I don't know.
Mhm.
But it's the uniqueness of this time in the
Right.
history of East Long Meadow, that we're all trying to figure out who's supposed to be doing what.
Right.
And
Right.
I just got the impression from that meeting that we were sliding back towards the Board of Selectmen making the decisions and the town administrator making it
Going
happen,
along.
right?
Mhm.
And which is not how it's supposed to be,
But
so
for
I
me,
just.
it's important to understand too, is, okay, so the town administrator came up with 1%. Now, I know she discussed, there's a group, like a de
Okay.
facto group,
Okay with the 1%?
I'm assuming she
No,
did.
Yeah,
No,
Town
she
came
did.
up with it. The
Town
accountant did.
accountant recommended
The
1%.
town accountant recommended, but, okay, she recommended, but are they, you remember the appropriations would get together and there would be discussions and they
Yeah.
would discuss with the accountant, and all that's gone now.
Denise
So
No,
and
no,
Sarah
no.
is like the appropriation.
No, there's still this debt squad.
Really?
The three people that spoke before we went up, Jim Broderick, Don Starks, and Russ Denver, are meeting Wednesday.
So how are they are chosen by the town council? or
council,
No,
right?
no, it
By the
was
manager?
by the town manager.
Oh,
Yeah.
Town manager has the ability,
But they get recommendation, she gets recommendation from the town council as to.
no. No. It was
so
strictly her.
the other part of that though, right, because we make capital requests as the executive for the school department is, how do we become part of that discussion in terms
Right.
of the priorities of this town to fund capital expenditures that we've been requesting for years, and how we go
But
about doing it?
that's-
I know the debt committee can say, well, this is how we think we can do it, but,
There's two different committees out there now.
okay,
There's also a capital committee that's recommending to the town manager, as well as a debt
wouldn't they
committee.
work in conjunction? Isn't
They're
that,
not
what
working-
were we going to
they're not
debt
working-
for other than capital projects?
Right, but I don't think they're working in
Okay.
conjunction.
It's all new, it's interesting how it's
Right.
gonna go down, I
There's
just,
there's a two-member capital advisory, which is
Okay.
Tom O'Connor and Ryan Quimby, that are advising Denise and Sarah on capital.
town employees?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
old members of the capital planning
I
committee,
know.
okay? And then there's a three-member debt squad that are advising Sarah and Denise.
So when does the school department have representation on any of those?
We don't, and
Right.
we never
So-
did, and we never did.
Oh, but it's different,
But
okay,
it's
I know.
it's a whole different.
I know, I just feel like we
It's
can
a
get
whole
lost in all
different
But we
this.
could
Well,
sit
our
with
kids
them
are gonna
and
be the
plead
ones
our
that are gonna
case.
I think,
We
you
don't get
know,
to sit with them
we
and
we
plead our
have,
case.
yeah, no, we have,
Yeah.
on the capital, I mean, the next agenda item is directly from one of those meetings.
Yeah,
Which meeting?
Our next agenda item is
Capital?
strictly.
Their capital meeting?
No, from our meeting with them on capital.
Yes.
Oh, you met with the group, the two?
Yes.
Okay.
We've met with
Well,
them
there's,
twice.
yeah,
Oh.
there's been, and I'm not, I wasn't
So-
involved in
so
these
we-
meetings,
we
but I
do-
knew they were going on.
Okay.
We do have input and discussion around those things. But before we jump to that agenda item, just to make sure, are we
I think we're done as far
okay
as
on
we
the
can,
budget
I mean,
guidelines?
yeah,
But why would we not request this? Let me ask you that. Why would we not ask for this?
I don't think there's no reason
I
not
think we
to.
need 686,285, whatever it
We
is.
I
just wanted
agree
to
with
show
you.
you the
We
clear-
wanted to
but
show
we
you the
gotta-
scenarios.
Yeah,
Okay.
To
because
make
we
sure
talked-
you're
I'm just
aware.
asking. if there's
We
a-
talked, and I said, we need to put out all the scenarios.
Yep.
We need to show everybody what that 1% looks like, and then go from there. But I said all along that the bottom line is gonna be the green sheet. That's what gets presented. But
Okay.
we just
have
needed
to
to
put it
show
together for you.
everything, what it all looked like, as opposed to
Yeah,
this.
no, this is great. Very helpful.
Yeah, it is, no,
Thank you.
good work.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
moving along to, an update on capital.
Just before we
Oh,
begin,
I'm
just
sorry.
a quick question.
Absolutely.
We get to capital, this is the list that we made up a couple of months ago, right, at the bottom?
Yeah, I've made no change to the
Okay.
prioritized projects
Thank
with
you.
no bonding.
Appreciate it. That's all I want to make sure. Go ahead.
Okay, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay.
Now I understand it.
So in your packets, you have a revised capital projects list. The revision is, just as Mr. Pacheco was pointing out, is on the scenario with bonding. And Mrs. Blair, jump in if I'm incorrect, but the feeling that I was getting is the recommendation is that there will be some bonding this year for
Right.
capital projects.
Yeah.
And so in that
So let me
discussion.
start,
Sure.
they haven't talked about any numbers yet,
No.
right?
No.
Well, I'd
There
like to
will be
know what-
bonding this year?
The discussions we've had are
It led us
that,
to believe.
that there will be some bonding.
Included in a 1% increase of a budget?
But these are separate discussions, I think.
Right.
Well,
Well,
your
they're there or they're
capital
not.
would be outside of that,
That would be outside of this?
Yeah,
yeah,
Okay.
as far as I understand.
That was my understanding also.
So, but that does bring up a point, which I'll get to in a moment, is maybe we then want to make a revision to the bottom of the page as well. However, the top of the page is a direct result of those discussions. And what it does is it takes the Meadowbrook roof project and adds in, if you remember, we didn't have the exterior renovation, which basically is the doors and windows, project in for this fiscal year. We had it in for next fiscal year. But since we're combining those in our application to the Mass School Building Authority, it made sense to put them into this prioritized list. It also made sense, and this was through direct discussion with town manager and the town accountant, to break it out over 2 fiscal years, because the reality is, you're not going to accomplish the feasibility study and design work and the full replacement in
In the
one
same
fiscal
year.
year. So if we break it out, that gives the town the ability to approve, say, the $360,000 for the feasibility and design work for the roof repair, and the $381,000 for the feasibility study and the design work for the door and window replacement. Those are estimates based on the price for the entire project. When talking with Sims Mania and McKee, in their original cost estimates, they built in a percentage for design work.
It's 20% for design work,
Yeah.
roughly 20%. Wow.
Roughly 20, exactly.
a lot of money.
However, the key to that is you don't want to underestimate,
Yeah,
because,
Sure, right.
and so, with that said, that can, if the town were to go forward with that as an approved capital plan for fiscal year 2018, 2 things happen. One, you have the money to do the design work whether MSBA invites us in or not.
Yeah.
2, if the MSBA invites us in, we're now getting upwards of 50% reimbursement on that. And that, as far as I understood the discussion, and Mrs. Blair, jump in if I'm misunderstanding it, that would be something that they could get done in their approved capital budget this year without going to debt exclusion.
Wow.
So you're not confusing the public.
just the design.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not confusing the public with
Yeah.
multiple votes.
Yeah.
Because
Because there's a lot of education that goes
And
behind
they
that.
could also do the projects next year
So-
if they're thinking of bonding.
Are they talking debt exclusion then?
No.
in
they're-
bonding?
No, they were
They're
talking
not.
bonding. This
Not
whole
intentionally, yeah.
situation was to not get into that confusing situation where
Right.
we go multiple votes.
But the understanding would have to be, though, that if it's approved by MSBA, then next year we would have to have a mutual understanding that they would be willing to at least put it out there to
Right.
fund it. Because
Well,
otherwise,
yeah.
you could spend $700,000 and then next year
Right.
not
Right.
approve the actual
Right.
project, and
And
we'd
they
be
were
wasting
the ones-
$700,000.
Correct, they were the ones who asked us to phase it
Okay.
over 2 years. So my assumption leaving that meeting was, well, if you're going to approve the 360 and 381
Right.
in year one, whether we get in the MSBA or not, then in year two, you have all that design work done, you're gonna approve the
Follow
actual
through on it.
implementation of
Yeah.
the full project.
Right.
Right,
The hope would be that we get called into the MSBA.
Right.
We already have the design work approved,
Right.
so we can move forward, because
Right.
that's one of their big criteria,
Yep.
is that the town get behind the feasibility study and the design work.
Okay.
Yeah,
With that
a lot to
said-
It looks
digest.
pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot to digest.
No, it looks very positive.
It
And
is.
they know the importance of the electrical panels.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. Would, anyone want to look at revising the bottom part? We didn't really talk about that, but if for some reason they don't bond, do we add design work there as priorities? Sorry.
Well, if they don't bond this year, the likelihood, I would think, increases to bond next year. Right? Because we have to bond, it's one of these years we're gonna have to bond, and that's been the
It-
goal.
It has been over
Right.
2 conversations, our understanding, and obviously it's implied, no one said, you know, this is a given, we
Right.
will be bonding, that there would be some
Some
bonding somewhere in the neighborhood of, say, up to 4 million for next year.
Well, at some point, they're gonna have to make a decision of what they're gonna do, because they're up against that
It's
April
based on a
first.
recommendation
Yeah, but they're up
coming
against
from
that April
town
first
accountant,
deadline as
town
well,
manager. Yeah.
for this.
It's gotta be part of the whole budget
Yeah.
process, right?
Can you ask Sarah for me, or maybe I'll just go ask her, about the bonding versus levy capacity, because I'm still not understanding, that's a separate topic.
Okay.
I think though, Gordon, to your point, we should add it to the lower list, because if we're truly gonna try to do this, and they don't decide to bond, we shouldn't,
Then it
we
still-
shouldn't-
should still
Wait.
become
we
priority
shouldn't bail
one.
out of it,
Right,
yeah,
right.
so definitely I think we
Right,
put
because
it
we
on
put
there.
the statement of interest in and.
Correct.
Yeah, so let's
Yeah,
put it
and-
there.
And the statement of interest is something that certainly is being supported fully by the town manager and town accountant. Both statements of interest,
The
the
one-
accelerated repair and the core that's coming up.
The one meeting that I was involved in with them
Reimbursement.
around capital was,
Right.
just look for
Makes
every funding source you
Right.
can.
Right.
So they are definitely behind this. And I think we should put the 360,000, move it down as well,
We
because
see-
it's gotta
put it
be
in both
done.
places.
Put it in both places.
It should be.
You're talking $741,000 you're gonna
For
increase it.
both,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Both, yeah.
And what priority are we gonna put it at?
Put it under, if you're putting it under no bonding, you're talking now,
Yeah,
add it in after 1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really?
yes.
Yeah.
We gotta get it
Well,
done.
it's a slippery one, right?
Well, it is.
Because
Yeah.
you need to get to it.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to get to it, because if we're gonna be accepted in the process, we need to have those funds available. We
Right.
talked about
Right.
that.
Yeah.
The timing's a little off on that.
I mean, the reality is, if they do bond, you're not getting probably to 4 or 5 of the upper list anyway.
Right.
If, you know,
They'll cut
maybe,
it.
maybe you will, but,
No,
you know,
hard to
the
say.
Maple Shade one at 598, I don't know.
Well, right, and
Yeah,
then,
that's,
that's the thing, because we're not gonna get anywhere if we don't bond.
Right, so.
The
so I think-
capacity's $2.4 million, and if we go even with a, one
Right.
point
The
two
1.5,
million out of
yeah.
that, that's a
Right.
2%
Yeah.
increase.
Yeah.
There's only $1 million, and that's going to the levy, which we're
So
not
you-
gonna do.
you stay
Right.
consistent with it being a priority whether you bond or whether you don't bond.
Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
They
Yeah.
do know that no matter what we do, we have to replace those 3 distribution panels.
right.
Yeah.
it makes a statement.
Yeah, I think we should do that then.
I make a motion that, that we revise the prioritized projects with no bonding and add as a number 2 request the feasibility studies for both the roof and the door and window replacement at $741,400 as number 2, and all the other ones are adjusted down.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries.
I can't believe I did that.
Do you, I think you have to do the whole
Oh,
sheet.
Yeah, you
It's
do
just
the
at the bottom.
Yeah, we did the
I
bottom.
love school committee.
So I move to approve the FY 2018 school department capital projects as of 1/9/2017 as amended.
I'm gonna second that.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Mr. Mackey, thank you for
Yes,
hearing us
thank you
this
for
evening.
staying.
We sent our student rep home
We did.
to finish up his homework.
Move to
If
adjourn.
there is nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All
Second.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you and good night.